Hello children, welcome to the subject biology. Biology deals with life forms and life processes. Hence, it is broadly classified into various streams like botany, zoology, microbiology, and further it is classified based on the processes into morphology, anatomy, physiology, cytology, etc. The CBSE has taken an integrated approach and have presented the entire scheme of biology in 2 volumes. Volume 1 will be dealt in the 11th standard and volume 2 in the 12th standard. Volume 1 comprises 5 units which are thematically divided. The first unit consists of the diversity of the living world. The second unit deals with the structural organization of plants and animals. The third unit deals with the study of cells called cytology. The fourth unit deals with the study of plants, that is the plant physiology, and the fifth unit deals with the human physiology or animal physiology. Similarly, the 12th standard also comprises of 5 units with 16 chapters, and the 11th standard 5 units with 22 chapters. Now, this is the first chapter coming under the first unit, diversity in the living world. The name of this chapter is the living world. This chapter lays a foundation to the entire field of biology. It deals with a number of terms which will help us in further studies in botany, zoology, microbiology, cytology, agriculture, animal husbandry, forestry, etc. So this is a very important chapter which lays the foundation stone in the field of biology. So welcome you once again to this chapter, the living world. So as I told you, this chapter comprises a number of terminology. So the first term we are going to deal is with systematics. What is systematics? Systematics is the branch of biology dealing with identification, nomenclature and classification of organisms based on the diversities and relationship among them. So once again, systematics is a broader branch. It deals with the identification, nomenclature and classification of organisms. Based on what criteria? Based on diversities and relationships among them. Next term, taxonomy. What is taxonomy? Taxonomy deals with the principles and procedures of classification of organisms. So when we have to classify, name and deal with these organisms, we have to incorporate taxonomy. So taxonomy is the study of the principles and procedures of classification of organisms. Next term, identification. Identification is the correct description of an organism prior to nomenclature. Before naming an organism, we have to correctly describe an organism. This is what is called identification. And next we have nomenclature. What is nomenclature? Nomenclature is just naming of organisms, and that too scientific naming of organisms. Next term, classification. Classification, as the name suggests, the grouping of organisms into categories, and these categories are called taxon, or in plural taxa, based on similarities and differences. So what is classification? Grouping of organisms into categories, and these biological categories are called taxon, plural taxa, based on similarities and dissimilarities. Next, what is taxon? As I told you, each rank or each category of classification is called taxon. And lastly, we have taxonomical hierarchy. What is taxonomical hierarchy? Arrangement of these taxa in a particular sequence from large to small. For example, the taxonomic hierarchy in animals is, remember this short form, KPC of GS. You know KPC, it's very famous, it's a drama company. So KPC, or you think of any other terms, KPC of, you can take of the preposition of, GS. So K stands for kingdom, K stands for kingdom, P for phylum, C for class, O for order, F family, G genus and S species. Now the taxonomical hierarchy in plants, it's exactly the same, but instead of phylum we use the word division. So it is KDC of GS. So once again, kingdom, division, class, order, family, genus and species. So this is the taxonomic hierarchy. These are the various taxa of this particular kingdom. This first one is indicating animal kingdom. The second case is indicating plant kingdom. I hope this is clear. Next, I told you what is nomenclature, scientific naming of organisms. Now, the widely used nomenclature is the binomial nomenclature. From the name itself, you understood binomial means it has two names. The scientific name comprises two parts, and this was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. So, the binomial nomenclature is widely accepted and it was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. Now, the rules you have learnt in 9th standard, but once again, let's go into the rules. There are 4 important rules. First, the name is derived from Latin or it is Latinized. So, most of the scientific names are Latin, or if it is not Latin, say for example Malabar, it's a place in Kerala, or it's a middle part of Kerala, the upper part of Kerala. So, it is Latinized by giving the word Malabaricus. India, many plants and animals that have originated in India, they call it, instead of writing as India, the English name Indica. So, they have given it a Latinized ending. So, first rule, derived from Latin or Latinized. The second rule is the first component. It has 2 components. I told you binomial nomenclature has 2 components. The first component denotes the genus and the second component represents the species. So, the 2 components GS. The first component deals with the genus and the second component deals with the species. Now, the third rule is the genus always starts with a capital letter. Very important, it starts with a capital letter, and the species starts with a small letter, and there should be a gap between the 2 components. And the fourth rule, the scientific name, if it is handwritten, it should be separately underlined. So, if you are writing a scientific name in handwriting, it should be separately underlined. Genus underlined and species also should be underlined. But if it's printed, it should be printed in which font? In italics. So, once again, let's go through the rules of binomial nomenclature. We have already learned somewhere in the lower class, in the 9th standard maybe. So, the first rule is it is derived from Latin or Latinized. Second, the first component denotes the genus and the second component denotes the species. The genus starts with a capital letter and the species starts with a small letter, and there should be a gap between these 2 components. And lastly, the scientific name, when it's handwritten, it should be separately underlined, or if it is printed, it should be printed in italics. Now, what is the advantage? What will be the advantage of such a nomenclature, binomial nomenclature? The first advantage is to ensure that each organism has only one name. So, there is no duplication of names. So, there is only one name for each organism. Second, to ensure that a name has not been used for any other known organisms. So, this ensures already one name is booked. It is already there in the taxonomy book. So, it will not be replicated. So, the second one, to ensure that a name has not been used for any other known animals. So, this is prevents duplication or doubling of names. And lastly, to enable people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name by description of any organism. So, at any part of the world, be Japan or Australia or America or India, by the from the very scientific name, they will get an idea of the organism. So, once again, the advantages of binomial nomenclature is: 1, to ensure that each organism has only one name. Second, to ensure that a name has not been used for any other known organism. And third, to enable any people from any part of the world to arrive at the same name by the description of any organism. For example, if mango is called Mangifera indica. So, when it is introduced in Japan or Australia or America, when they say Mangifera indica, definitely they can conclude origin is India, that India, indica indicates India, and the scientific name will properly make them reach the particular specimen. Now there are two very important organizations that provide scientific names. The scientific names to animals are provided by ICZN, International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, and to plants it is provided by International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. So this is all about nomenclature. So this is the picture of Carolus Linnaeus, who is credited with the binomial nomenclature 1, and also he only formulated the two kingdom classification, that is organisms are classified into plant kingdom and animal kingdom. Next we are going to see the different taxa, how we are going to define the taxa. First, species. What is a species? Group of organisms with fundamental similarities. For example, human beings, we all belong to the same species. And another very important feature of species, the organisms within that particular group should interbreed to produce fertile offsprings. Next, genus. Again, further description is easy. Just go to the previous and explain. The group of related species with similarities is called genus. Family, group of related genera, plural of genus is genera, with similarities. Next, order, group of related families with similarities. Class, group of related orders with similarities. Phylum or division, group of related classes with similarities. And lastly, we have the highest most rank, that is kingdom, that is all the phyla together constitute that particular kingdom. So once again, what is species? Group of organisms which are fundamentally similar and can interbreed. Very important, can interbreed to produce fertile offsprings is known as species. Then further it's easy. What is genus? Group of related species with similarities. Family, group of related genera with similarities. Order, group of related families with similarities. Class, group of related orders with similarities. Phylum, group of related classes with similarities. And lastly, we have all the phyla together coming under one particular kingdom. Now I have to give you one example indicating taxonomic hierarchy from botany and from zoology. From botany, I am taking the case of Mangifera indica, mango. Example, mango. And in zoology, I am taking the example of man. Okay. Now you look, species. The species of mango is indica. The genus it belongs is Mangifera. The family is Anacardiaceae. Order it belongs Sapindales. The class it belongs Dicots. The phylum Angiospermae, and it belongs to the kingdom Plantae. So this is an example coming indicating taxonomic hierarchy in botany. I have taken the example of Mangifera indica. So mango is called Mangifera indica. So I have applied the rules of binomial nomenclature. I started the genus. It has two words, genus and species. Genus started with a capital letter. Genus with a capital letter and species with a small letter with a gap, and I have separately underlined. Now, taking an animal example, that is human beings. Human beings belong to the species Sapiens. It belongs to the genus Homo, family Hominidae, order Primata, class Mammalia, phylum Chordata, and it belongs to the animal kingdom. So what is the name? What is the scientific name of man? Man is called by the scientific GS. We have to incorporate GS. What is G? Genus. Which is genus? Homo. And which is the species name? Sapiens. See how I have written? Is it complete? I have to separately underline. Then if we are following correctly, we are going by the rules of binomial nomenclature. So I have taken, to explain or illustrate taxonomic hierarchy, I have taken Mangifera indica or mango among the plants as an example, And to illustrate the same in animals, I have taken as human beings, Homo sapiens. Okay. And remember, in plants, it is not phylum, it is division. Okay. I hope you have understood taxonomical hierarchy with the illustration. Now we are going into the different aids used by taxonomists to facilitate the study of taxonomy. The first aid is herbarium, second botanical gardens, third museum, fourth zoological parks, fifth keys, sixth flora, seventh manuals, eighth monograph. So these are some important taxonomical aids. They facilitate our studies in taxonomy or facilitate our studies in systematics. So now let's go into each taxonomical aid one by one. Herbarium. Before going into herbarium, I am just showing you the herbarium that you are going to prepare in the first term for practicals. This is the herbarium. See, we have taken the plant specimen, plucked, dried and stuck on an A4 size paper, given the description and laminated with a plastic sheet. Okay, this is a herbarium. That way there are many herbarium. Okay. Now, the herbarium, very importantly, the herbarium should carry some very important information. The date of collection, the place of collection and the name of the collector. These three information is mandatory. So the herbarium should bear three important information: the date of collection, the place of collection and the name of the collector. Besides that, it should comprise the scientific name of that particular plant, the botanical name or the scientific name, and also if we know the colloquial name, the name that is familiar in the locality, we can also incorporate. For example, this is hibiscus. Okay, it belongs to the family Malvaceae. Hibiscus is a scientific name. And what is the colloquial name? Chambarati. So we can incorporate that also into this. So this is a typical example of a herbarium. So what is a herbarium? It is a storehouse. This is only one herbarium sheet. That way we will have many such sheets, and it will be stored, or it can be pasted on the wall like a gallery. It is a storehouse of collected plant specimens that are dried, pressed and preserved. So we pluck, we dry, press it and then preserve it on sheets. Clear? Next, it carries a label providing information about the date. I told you the date of collection, the place of collection, then the local or the botanical name, then the family and the name of the collector. See, all this is incorporated in this. The date of collection, the place of collection, the name of the collector, botanical name or the colloquial name or the local name. Okay, all these are incorporated, and very importantly the family name. The family of this hibiscus is Malvaceae. So all these should be present on the herbarium. Next, what is the use of this herbarium? For quick reference in taxonomic studies. So if I want to know more about the characteristics of Malvaceae family, so I need not go to the garden, I need not fetch for the plant. If it's not available, there's lots of challenges. So what I can do, I can just refer the herbarium. I can get from this herbarium, I can get a lot of, it's very analytical, I can get a lot of idea of the different worlds. Next taxonomical aid is a key. Key, for example, the very same example I am taking is Malvaceae. I am just giving you one example of one statement of a key. Now Malvaceae, you are very familiar with this particular flower or hibiscus. It has how many petals? It has 5 petals. So we call 5 petals as pentamerous. And 3 petaled flower are called trimerous. Now I am making a key. So the first statement is this. Let the first statement be whether the flower is pentamerous or trimerous. So the statement contains mostly two options. So we have to select among the options. So if it's applicable to hibiscus, which option I will select? I will select the option pentamerous, and I will reject the option trimerous. So this is a very good example of the statement, and this statement, we will not call it statement, it is called lead, L-E-A-D. So this is called lead. Actually there are a number of leads in a key. So a key comprises a number of leads. For example, I made one lead. Let this be the first lead, pentamerous or trimerous. Second lead, if the flower has a stalk, it is called pedicellate. If it does not have a stalk, it is called sessile. I hope you have understood. See, flowers with stalk and flowers without stalk. Okay, so the flower with stalk is called pedicellate and the flower without stalk is called sessile. So now, after attempting the first lead, pentamerous or trimerous, I accepted one option and rejected the other option. The lead or the statement leads me to the next statement. The second statement is deciding or telling whether it is pedicellate or sessile, and we know the hibiscus has a stalk. So I'll select pedicellate and I'll reject sessile. Now this statement will lead me to another statement. The color of the flower, red or white. So I'll select red and I'll reject white. Then it will lead me to another statement. So these statements, because it's leading us to another statement, it's known as lead. And this statement, which comprises two options, are called couplets. So let's get back to key. What is a key? It is based on the contrasting characters, generally in a pair called couplet. See, the characters are generally in a pair. The choice is made between the two opposite options. This results in the acceptance of only one option and rejection of the other option. And each statement is known as lead. I have demonstrated a lead. And you can see in the herbarium, we put the key nearby. But the key that is only selected for this particular plant. I am not giving the two options. See, the first option is the number of sepals, 5 or 3. So I have selected 5 sepals. Then it goes to the second lead, third lead, fourth lead. So these leads are placed adjacent to the herbarium, to the stuck specimen. So key and herbarium go side by side. So once again, a key comprises a number of statements. What are these statements called? These statements are called leads, and each statement contains two options. And the taxonomist, what he should do, or the student, what he should do, he should select one option and reject the other option. And these statements occur in couplets because they have two options. Now what is the use of a key? It is analytical in nature and is used for identification of plants and animals based on similarities and dissimilarities. Because it's very analytical, it helps in the process of identification of plants and animals based on the similarities and dissimilarities. See, this is the herbarium of the family Malvaceae, and this is the herbarium of the family Solanaceae. They are totally different. So all the characteristics, if any plant having these characteristics will belong to the family Malvaceae, and this one belongs to the family Solanaceae. Okay, so very important for identification purpose. I hope key is clear. Next, museum. Museum is found in most of the educational institution, and you all must have visited a museum. Not the historic museum, it is a zoology or botanical museum. A museum in any educational institution comprises, it's an integrated approach. It contains both botanical specimens and zoological specimens. So what is a museum? It is a collection of preserved plants and animals, specimens in jars or containers containing preservative solutions, or it also can be in the form of dry mounds. So in the museum we can see all the plants and animals in bottles or jars, and they put in a liquid. This liquid is called formaldehyde. It is placed in the ratio 9:1. That is one formaldehyde and it's diluted 9 times. And this is how it is preserved. It can be preserved for long. Most of the plant and animal specimens are preserved in this liquid, or it can also be preserved as dry mounds. For example, those shelled animals can be preserved in dry form. We need not preserve it in liquid form. Say starfish, sea urchin and all can be preserved as dry mounds. Then what about insects? Insects are preserved in insect boxes. They are collected, killed and pinned. So we take the insect and we are pinning it in a thermocol box and it is preserved airtight. Next, birds and large mammals. Now when you see the museum, you can see birds. Are they put in liquid? No. What is done? The flesh is removed and they are stuffed. The outer exoskeleton with the feathers, beak, etc. are maintained, and the inner part is stuffed with cotton, and they are preserved very well in stuffed form. So there are some birds. Most of the birds are preserved in stuffed form. Mammals, especially rats, rabbits, all rodents are preserved in stuffed form and preserved. And also very importantly, what is important in the museum, welcomes you into the museum, is a skeleton. Most of our museum contains a skeleton of human beings. Besides that, it can contain skeletons of any other animals too. And the purpose of a museum is for reference, study and reference. If suppose I want to study of the human skeleton, there is no other option. Video, okay, now we have this the media, but if I want to have a detailed study, I can visit the museum and I can touch and see each bone, the articulation, the joints, etc. So museum is very important for reference. Next, botanical garden. I know that most of you all must have visited a botanical garden. It becomes a part of our tours. Okay, so botanical gardens, India is blessed with a number of botanical gardens in southern India as well as in northern India. And you must have visited these gardens with beautiful flowers, with the variety of flora. And you must have noticed that every plant bears a label. The label has the scientific name and the colloquial name as well as the family. Only two components. Unlike herbarium, only two parts, only two labels. Two components are required in the label: the botanical name and the family. Okay. So what is a botanical garden? Botanical garden has a collection of living plants. Okay, that should be specified. Living plants, and plants carry label indicating the botanical or scientific name and its family. So the label has just two parts: the botanical name and the family. And here the use of it is for identification and reference. Just like the museum, it helps in identification and references. Next, zoological parks. Definitely you all must have visited a zoological park as a part of pleasure, not as a part of study tour. But this very important part, that is the study part, is that by visiting a zoo you can learn the habit and the behavior of animals. So what is a zoo? These are places where wild animals are kept in protected environment under human care. So here we can see wild animals are under the guard of humans. And the use of zoological parks is to learn about the food habits and the behavior of animals. If you are a zoologist or going to pursue your study in zoology, the best place is to study is the zoo. You can study the food habits as well as the behavior of these wild animals. So I hope you have understood what is a zoological park. These are places where wild animals are kept in protected environments under human care. Next, besides all these, we are having other taxonomical aids, namely flora, manuals and catalogs. Why I highlighted these three is it is of a particular area. For example, what is flora? It contains actual information of the habit, distribution of plants of a given area. So for example, if you are taking a particular area, for example the school area is Tevra, if you are taking that particular area, it gives an account of the habitat and the distribution of plants. For example, hibiscus, we are learning about the habitat and the distribution, where and all it's found in Tevra. So flora deals with, it gives an account of the habitat and the distribution of a particular plant in a particular area. Not of a particular plant, of a different plants of a particular area. Now manual, It contains information for identification of names of species found in that area. Now I want to identify, there are many plants in that particular area, Tevra. Now I want to identify, I must make use of manuals. Manuals gives us information for identifying the names of these plants found in that particular area. Then catalog. Catalog, you all are very familiar now because many manuals comes with catalog, or library also is cataloged. So you know it is an index to the plant species found in a particular area. See, for example, Tevra. There's an index, which are the plants present in Tevra. So like your textbook has an index, you can see the variety of plants found in that particular area. So what I highlighted, flora, manuals, catalogs, all of them are belonging to a particular area. What is flora? It's a broader aspect. It gives us an account of the habitat and distribution of different plants of a particular area. The manuals, to identify, there are many plants that are known and unknown. So the unknown plants, to identify them of that particular area, we have to refer the manual. It gives us information on the identification of names of the species found in an area. And lastly, catalog, the front page, that's the index of the different plants found in that particular area. So all related to a particular area. I gave the example of the area Tevra. The first one is dealing with the habitat and distribution of the different plants in that area. Next is dealing with, suppose there are unknown plants, I have to refer the manual. It gives me information on how to identify the names of these plants. And lastly, the index of all the plants belonging to that particular area. So all these are revolving around a particular area. Now, but monograph is totally different. It is irrespective of the area. For example, we are going to learn about mango. So it is not confined to Kerala or Andhra, any mango producing place. It is mango found in different regions. So it is only, it contains information of any one taxon, irrespective of the area. For example, we have learned the taxon apes. So it is dealing with apes, only dealing all account of apes and where they are distributed. It's not at all confined to a particular area. Here it is revolving around the particular taxon, not on the area. In the other case, it deals with the area with a number of species, but here it deals with one particular taxon. It can be a species or genus, irrespective of the area. So I hope you have understood the other taxonomic aids. It includes flora, manuals, monographs and catalogs. Flora contains the account of the habitat and distribution of plants of a given area because it's flora. Similarly, we have fauna also. Then we have to rename it. Instead of plants, we can give it as animals. The manuals like how we have these gadgets, manuals will help us to work the machine like that way. This is also helping us. If there are some unknown species in that particular area, to find their name, we make use of the manuals as it contains information for identification of names of the species found in an area. Then we have catalogs, simple as the index of your textbook. That is, it's the index of the plant species found in a particular area. So just look at the index, you will have a quick idea of all the plant species available in that particular area. And monograph is irrespective of the area, it deals exclusively of one particular taxon, all the information related to one particular taxon. I hope you have understood today's class. With this, the first lesson of biology is over. You have to be very familiar with the terms and concepts. Thank you.